So Star had a meeting, so hopefully she'll be able to join us here in a little while, but she had asked me to get everything kicked off um, for this meeting. It looks like we have somebody from Make a Wish that's supposed to be presenting. I'm not sure if that person is on yet. Hi, Morgan. So we can just get started with that. I'd hate for us not have enough time for everything, so we'll go ahead and get started. And if everybody else just jumps on, they can go ahead and do that. So take it away, Morgan.
Perfect. Well, thank you for having me. I'm going to see if I can share. Oh, it says you have to let me share my screen. Is that possible?
Yeah, let me see if I can figure this out. Okay, try now.
Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, I can see
Or
it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much for letting me join your meeting this morning. I really appreciate it. So my name is Morgan Polonsic. I'm with Make-A-Wish Wyoming. I'm our chapter CEO, so we cover the whole state of Wyoming. And I've been with Make-A-Wish for almost 14 years. In about a month, it'll be 14 years. It's gone by fast. And so would love to just share a little bit about our organization with you today. So our mission is that together we create life-changing wishes for children with critical illnesses. Our chapter was founded in 1985 by four people in Casper, and since that time we've granted 759 wishes of Wyoming children. This is just kind of a little quick snapshot of what the wish process is, but something I like to share with folks is just because I think people don't always know what happens in the background of us granting a wish. So the most important part is that a child gets referred to us. So we know that every year we're missing kids who are eligible for a wish and who aren't being referred to us. So that's why it's great to share with any groups that we can. There's a lot of misconceptions about our eligibility and who's eligible. And I think that's why we're missing so many kids in Wyoming, combined with the fact that we don't have a children's hospital here. So all of our kids get treated out of state. And though we work closely with the Colorado and Utah Make-A-Wish chapters, it's still very much out of our control in working with those children's hospitals. And then, of course, some of our kids go even further for treatment. So we know we're always missing kids. And so it's always helpful to share that referral information. And I'll kind of dig into that a little bit more later on. But just for you all to know too, because I don't know what all of your different roles are, but occasionally we run into like a confidentiality issue or someone just wants to be a little bit careful before they know if a child might be eligible. And so just for you to know that you can always either go online or call our office and ask any questions about medical eligibility. And you don't have to tell us anything about the child that you're calling about. So we run into that with school nurses a lot, for example, which they've been a tremendous resource for us for referrals. But they, have to be careful with confidentiality issues as well. So if you ever know of a child who might be eligible, we would always encourage you to contact our office to learn more. And just by telling us what the child's condition is, we can tell you if they would likely qualify, or they might qualify, or it likely wouldn't qualify, just depending on the condition and what the complications might be. And then the child has to be between the ages of 2.5 and 18. We do have to receive that referral before the 18th birthday. We don't have to have eligibility determined, like from the doctor, because of course every referral we get, we then confirm the medical eligibility with the doctor. And we don't have to have that done before the 18th birthday. We just simply have to have the initial inquiry into our office, and that's a national policy. And then occasionally we do have families or friends of families call with a kiddo who's under 2.5, and we just make a note on our calendar at that 2.5 mark to do the eligibility at that time. They have to have not received a wish previously. So We don't run into this a lot in Wyoming because we are the only wish granting organization here, but in other parts of the country, there are other wish granting organizations. And so that's just one of our national policies is that they've not already had a wish from a Make-A-Wish chapter or another wish granting organization. And then diagnosed with a critical illness. And again, we confirm that with their healthcare team. The critical illness is life-threatening at the time of referral. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on as well. Once a child's been referred to us and we've determined that they're medically eligible, then we pair them with volunteers. So we have amazing volunteers all over the state. We have about 60 active volunteers across Wyoming. We always send the volunteers out in pairs, usually an experienced volunteer with maybe a newer volunteer. And our volunteers are really our boots on the ground. So they get to meet with the family and kind of walk them through, especially that initial process of a wish. So of course, there's some paperwork that we do, but then we also do wish discovery tools for our kids. As you can imagine, if you had to pick one wish, it can be a little overwhelming to think of all the possibilities. We really see that with our teenagers. Our younger kiddos usually can pick a wish a little bit quicker, but I think our teenagers just understand the possibilities a little bit more. And so the Wish Discovery tool is designed to help them kind of capture all of their ideas in one place and then just kind of think through what their one true wish is. And it's really based on what the child's interests are. So, for example, I worked with a teenage girl a couple years ago who was very artistic. And so for her Wish Discovery tool, we did a sketchbook. So she like sketched out all of her different ideas as part of her process. We've had kids do Pinterest boards or cork boards, journals. It's really whatever is a good fit for that kiddo. And on the flip side, some kids just know right away what their wish is, and so they don't need a discovery tool, and that's okay too. We're pretty flexible on all of that. So once a child has determined their wish, then of course we have some approvals that we have to do on our end. We have to make sure we're meeting our national policies, which fortunately there's not a ton of those. There are some things we can't do, like you can't wish to have 3 wishes and you can't wish for $1 million, things like that. We haven't sent a child to the moon yet, although we did have a kiddo from Cheyenne go to space camp, which was pretty fun. So just making sure that the wish meets all of our policies from a national standpoint. Obviously, we have to get budget approval, that type of thing. And then we also have to circle back with that child's physician, especially for like a travel wish, and make sure that that child is okay to travel, especially if they're going to be flying or if they're going long distances or somewhere that's maybe more rural that doesn't have a lot of medical access. Those are all things that we want to just double check with their treating physician to make sure won't be an issue, as well as the timing of the wish and scheduling that. A lot of times our kids are still in treatment during their wish. Not always. Some families wait till the end of treatment. And it's really whatever works well for the family on the timing. And then we coordinate all the details, which, as you can imagine, that's a really small, a little small statement right there, but that is what takes up the majority of our time, right? Is coordinating all the details of the wish, which again looks very different depending on the wish. We have some really unique wishes right now. One, we have a teenage girl who wants to have her own like food trailer, like food truck, but as a trailer, which is not something we've ever done before. And so sometimes our kids get pretty creative. And so then we get creative and figure out how do we do that? So that's been a really fun one to work on. And then we have another kiddo in Casper who has wished to have a wheelchair bike. So it's an electric bike that the parents can ride, and then it has a wheelchair on the front of it that the wish kid can ride. But then when they get wherever they're going, say to the park or downtown or whatever it may be, the wheelchair actually detaches from the bike and then they can wheel him around too. So every year we get wishes that we've never had before. And so there's a lot of research and all of that that comes into play in that number 5 step that looks simple on the slide, but is a little bit more to it. And then 6 wishes granted. So we try and really make that special too. So we do like a sneak peek leading up to a child's wish. A lot of times we'll do a celebration or a reveal. It really depends on what the kiddo enjoys. Some kids like a more private experience, and some kids like to do something a little bit bigger. So sometimes it might be a scavenger hunt around town, or a surprise send-off party with family and friends, or whatever it might look like, based on what that family would prefer. On the flip side of that, we also have families and kids, again, a lot of times teenagers, who really want to fly under the radar. So we do have an option for all of our families to have what we call a silent wish. And so that means there's no publicity around that wish at all. We don't share pictures on social media. We don't put anything in our newsletter or our website about that wish. It's really just more of a private experience for the family. We love it when we can share our wish stories with our supporters and the community, but we also understand that some families, they're going through so much already with medical things that they just want to enjoy the experience themselves. So that's an option that we give every family that we work with as well. Any questions before I kind of jump into some more eligibility and misconceptions? Okay. So there's so many misconceptions about Make-A-Wish. I think it's one of those organizations where most people have heard of Make-A-Wish, but a lot of people really don't know exactly who we serve or exactly what we do. The biggest misconception that I find when I'm speaking with people is that people still think that Make-A-Wish is only for kids with terminal conditions, and that's not true. So again, it's any child between the ages of 2.5 and 18 with a critical illness. And critical illnesses include a wide variety of medical conditions. It does include all types of cancer, even up to a year after the child's gone into remission because of the risk that's still there. But it also includes transplants, heart, kidney, liver, bone marrow transplants, conditions like Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, Huntington's disease, and hundreds of other conditions. Again, I've been with Make-A-Wish for almost 14 years, and every year we have kids who have conditions that I've never even heard of before, which again is why we always work closely with the child's physician to determine their eligibility. I think the other big misconception that we run into, especially with our potential wish families, is that they feel like if their child has a wish, that's going to take a wish away from a child who deserves it more or who is more sick than their child. And that's not the case. So it's not like we take a set number of kids each year. Our referrals actually fluctuate pretty significantly from year to year. But every child who is referred to us who is deemed medically eligible goes on our list. So right now we have 32 wishes in progress. That number's been in the 60s before, especially through COVID when we had some holds for travel. So that number fluctuates pretty significantly, but our vision is to reach every eligible child in the state. And so, I always tell families that the people of Wyoming want us to reach every eligible child in the state. So let me worry about the funding part. We just want to make sure that every child gets to experience the hope and joy of having their wish come true. These kids go through so much. They've had their whole worlds turned upside down. Most of them are spending more time in the hospital than they are on the playground. And to be able to sit and dream about the possibility of a wish and all of the ideas of a wish, I think is incredibly therapeutic for a lot of our kids and a lot of our families too. I think they kind of use it almost as an escape sometimes. It's such a roller coaster of their medical journey, ups and downs, and so much out of their control. And for a child, a wish can be the one thing that is in their control, the one thing that they can always look forward to, even in the midst of a chaos of an illness. And so that's our vision, is to reach every eligible child. Every eligible child should get to experience that and have that to hold on to throughout their medical journey. And then I think a lot of people associate Make-A-Wish with Disney, and we do grant a lot of Disney wishes, but we also do so much more than Disney wishes too. I kind of mentioned a few that we're working on right now, but I think people just don't always realize what what all we can do as an organization. But honestly, even our Disney wishes are pretty incredible. Our kids get to do things that you and I wouldn't get to do at Disney. They get to stay at a special place called Give Kids the World Village. It's only for Wish families. And it's just incredible. It's almost like it's out of a Dr. Seuss book or something. Each family gets their own villa. They have like a life-size version of Candyland, a breakfast parlor open for breakfast, or open an ice cream parlor open for breakfast. You eat lunch at a gingerbread house, and they do Christmas every Thursday. It's like a very incredible place to get to stay. And Disney just really goes above and beyond for our Wish kids as well. So we do more than Disney, but even our Disney wishes are very special. And then the other big misconception that we often face is just the difference between Make-A-Wish America and Make-A-Wish Wyoming. And so I think a lot of times people don't realize that we have a Wyoming chapter, and that as the Wyoming chapter, we are our own 501c3 organization. So we have our own staff, we have our own governing board of directors. We do, have to follow some policies and whatnot from the national office. But other than that, we really are an independent organization. So the funds that we raise in Wyoming stay here to grant the wishes of Wyoming children. And so many people across the state don't realize that. They just think of it as a national organization. So that's always something I like people to be aware of as well. Any questions on that? Zoom through too fast. So if you do ever know of a child who might be eligible, you can always go to our website, wyoming.wish.org, or if you're just looking for specific medical information, you can go to md.wish.org. And on md.wish.org, we have resource pages for each one of these areas that kind of just gives a little bit more in depth about what types of conditions qualify within each of these. So I did pull up the oncology one to share with you today. So again, we have one of these for each of the areas on the previous slide, and it just kind of gives a little bit more in depth about who is eligible within oncology, for example. So that can be kind of a helpful resource. Our cancer kiddos are a little bit more straightforward as far as determining eligibility, which is kind of nice. We run into more issues with our kids who have really unique genetic conditions that are very rare. Sometimes those ones take a little bit more to determine eligibility, but our cancer kiddos are pretty straightforward. And I would say in any given year, about probably close to half of our Wish kids have some type of cancer or tumor, brain tumor, on any given year, and then the other half have kind of a mix of genetic conditions, severe seizure disorders, transplants, all of the rest of it. So it's fun to share about some recently granted wishes. So this was a really fun one. We had Adelaide, 17, in Cheyenne. I don't know if anyone knows Adelaide in Cheyenne, but she is a huge fan of Dwayne Johnson. And so her wish was not just to meet him, but to actually get to arm wrestle him. There's actually a really great segment that the Today Show did about her wish. He met with several Wish families that day and spent a ton of time with each one, but he and Adelaide really hit it off. And so she's featured pretty prevalently, sorry. She's featured in the segment quite a bit, which is fun to see. So I can send that link out after too, if you have a minute later today to watch it. But again, this kind of shows, again, it's not just Disney wishes, and that we can do things that a family wouldn't be able to do on their own. And I think that really, our celebrity wishes really encompass that of most people. I don't know about you guys. I wouldn't be able to just call up Dwayne Johnson and say, hey, can I meet you next month? So our national office is a really great resource when it comes to our celebrity wishes and any type of like sports or any of those types of wishes. They're really wonderful with those. So right now we have 32 wishes in progress. We granted 2 more wishes last week. We had Adam from Gillette who was visiting Busch Gardens, and then we had a silent wish. I was mentioning those earlier. A 12-year-old who wished to go on a road trip to California to visit his grandpa and go fishing. So they both had a great time. Again, that 32 wishes in progress changes every single week. So every single week we're granting wishes, and every single week we're getting new kids referred to us. So it's pretty common for it to be in the 30s or 40s. Again, we have had it as high as the 60s during COVID. We had a lot of kids, of course, who had to postpone travel wishes in 2020 and even 2021, just being the most medically fragile, and doctors just wanting kids to hold off on travel there. So we have been in the 60s. 30s is a better, a more comfortable number for me to be at, but that number does fluctuate quite a bit from week to week. A few years ago, our national office did a wish survey, and I think that these statistics are incredibly impactful. We've always known that a wish could be a powerful thing for a child who is going through a battle like this. But I think that these numbers really just demonstrate that even further. So 98% of parents felt that the wish experience gave them the opportunity to just be a normal family again. Something that I think a lot of us take for granted, honestly. We take our health for granted so often. 81% of parents saw an increase in willingness by their wish child to go along with treatment. And that's something that we've heard time and time again from families, especially kiddos who had an incredibly long and challenging medical journey. I think they just get worn out from all of the different tests and scans and surgeries, and it's painful, and they get worn out from it. And so a wish can really be that boost for them to keep fighting. 96% of healthcare referral sources saw an increase in wish kids' emotional health. And 89% of nurses, doctors, social workers, and child life specialists say that they think the wish experience can actually influence wish kids' physical health, which I think goes back to that, willingness to continue with treatment, willingness to do what they need to do on the medical side, which I think, again, is pretty impactful. So we've always known that wishes were a fun thing for kids and, a fun thing for the whole family, but then to also know that there is a medical impact to it as well, I think is pretty significant. And then just a last reminder that every wish begins with referral. And again, we know we're missing kids across the state every year who are eligible for a wish. Our national office estimates that there's likely a child diagnosed with a critical illness somewhere in Wyoming every single week. So about 52 kids a year. And we're granting between 35 and 40 wishes a year. So again, year after year, we know we're missing kids who are eligible. And so it always appreciates, maybe it's a family friend or a friend of a friend. Wyoming's really a small town, so everyone kind of knows everyone. So again, if you ever know of a child who might be eligible, we would love to chat with you and explore that. Any questions?
Can we get a copy of this slideshow? I have a friend that's a pediatrician here, and I'm wondering how up to speed she is on it. I'd love to share it.
Yes, that would be, yes, I will definitely send the slides out. And that would be so wonderful because we have a hard time connecting with our pediatricians just because they're so spread out, and then not every community has pediatricians. Some it's just general practice doctors. And so it gets a little tricky to connect with our pediatricians. So that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Morgan. I know that was a really great information, and I know I learned something new for sure. I agree with some of those misconceptions. And I actually head up the childhood cancer work group for the coalition, so that I'm excited to kind of share this information with them as well. And Star was actually able to join us, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn it over to her for the rest of the meeting.